Hey guys, I'm Torch, and welcome to this new video series that I have decided to start doing. And it's a series where I go through a bunch of different strategies with different agents, and I show them in the program called Valoplant, as you can see in the top left corner here. Yeah, so this is a very unconventional comp on the map Pearl. So we're gonna look at a type of B rush or B split strategy, especially for like pistol rounds, because I have noticed that a lot of people have issues pushing B on Pearl, both in my own matches and from the people that I've talked to. And so let's get right into it. What you're seeing on your screen right now is the first sequence of a specific strategy of splitting B and then playing post plant with Killjoy lineups, Brimstone lineups, and kind of Kayo lineups as well, if you can survive that long. And what you're seeing right here is the first step towards getting control of B long. So you want your characters to line up just in the way that I've shown you right here. You want the Brimstone to stay kind of back right here so he can be ready to smoke for the guys going B Link. I will show that very soon. So the KO is throwing a lineup here that is landing at the back left corner of sight. And this knife clears both the screen or the generator thing and kind of elbow or backside, whatever you want to call it. So this knife is used together with the breach stun to get control of B long. Now, sure, the stun doesn't cover everything, but it covers the most usual spots where they play. And if the enemies kind of figure out that you're doing this stun, then you can switch up the stun by like making it go a little bit more deeper like that. And as you can see also, the Killjoy has left his turret here in B Link area, and the purpose of this turret is to kind of hold the mid push and the flank later in the round, because the Killjoy and the Breach will start pushing towards B Link. This is the next sequence here. As you can see, the Neon has, after the Breach stun and the knife that we threw, the Neon has started scaling up long, and KO has started running towards long as well. Brimstone throws the smoke in for the connector B Link, and Breach is flashing into B Link, so and Killjoy is coming with him to trade him pretty much. This is used to start getting B Link control, and the other guys will go B long essentially. So at this point, you should have gotten the information from the KO knife lineup, whether there's someone playing generator here. If there's a chamber, for example, that guy won't be able to TP out, so you can use some utility to kill that guy. Now, this is a pretty simple step, but essentially going to be a 3-2 push. You put 3 guys long and 2 guys B-Link. Now, at this point, all of the 3 guys have started scaling up long. If the Brim has a stim beacon, he throws it now so that the Neon gets even more speed. The Neon stuns back elbow to kind of force whoever could be playing there back off that angle, while the Killjoy and the Breach is starting to scale up B-Link. Now, both of these sides, whichever side you're like splitting from, could be slowed down by the enemy's utility, right? But in the best of worlds, you do this and you get kills, or you don't get kills, or they fall back or whatever, and you can start scaling up. So the B-Link people would try to scale up as fast as possible, clearing the close left corner here and like trying to hold this. And if the Killjoy has some weird lineup, like later on, if it's not a pistol round, for example, he could like throw a lineup early that lands here to like kind of help them clear and run this distance without getting killed from sight. So next step. Now there's a lot on the screen, I get that, but I'll take one thing at a time here. The Neon had just stunned back elbow, right? And the idea here is that Neon will stun again, right on this like default plant spot. It's gonna stun. Well, I guess it's kind of gonna stun here again, but it's also gonna bounce and stun on the close right corner before they even push. Because there's like people like playing this corner, like Sages and other people. They can play this corner on top of this box or behind this box, or there's a lot they could be doing there. So the second stun is very good right there. And while Neon does this, the KO can throw a flash that kind of lands on the left side here, or yeah, he can throw it anyway, really. But it's good to like throw it behind stuff because it forces, it can give you enough space to scale up without flashing yourself. And at the same time, while the people on long is doing this push, Brimstone would throw these two smokes. I know the smokes look pretty weird, but the purpose of these smokes is to just give you enough space for the Neon to dash into default and plant, kind of. So this smoke covers the heaven area, and this smoke covers the like CT area, kind of, and also covers the potential peak from the other side of elbow here, or backside. Because a lot of people that play backside or elbow, they like, if they're forced off this angle, they can very often run back to this area instead and try to peek like this. And so this kind of counters that a bit. So you're trying to rely on the neon stuns and stuff to force them off this angle. And at the same exact time, the breach is going to scale up and throw a flash right here to, just in case someone is walking out here, or if there's someone playing right here or close to this stun or something, the breach can stun and the breach can flash and help the neon on site. And for the last thing here, the Killjoy is setting up to play, to kind of hold the flank here. So the Killjoy puts an alarm bot right here that kind of helps her play this corner, and she can just peek off the contact of that when the guys are rotating. And now there is a risk that someone will like push mid before, or out of the smoke also, before the breach can even get in here. And if that happens, then the Killjoy just has to swing in and try to trade that, I suppose. But this strategy is assuming that everyone manages to survive to use their utility. Now everything could go wrong, but it's just in the best of worlds. So that's it for that step. The next step would be, it would look like this. So now the neon has dashed into default, the breach has flashed in, and he's ready to use an aftershock on the elbow thing here, because if he doesn't use any utility right here, the guy could like try to push up and essentially kill the neon while he's planting. So this aftershock helps with that. And the Kayo and the Brimstone is trying to like stand here and help the neon not get pushed right around this box or out of these smokes. So they're just like standing here, chilling a bit, watching this angle pretty much to see if there's anyone trying to kill the neon while they're planting. And the reason they aren't really committing to site is because both of these players are trying to play lineups from B long. So the Kayo will have a lineup and the Brimstone will have a lineup. And we also have the Killjoy kind of set up to potentially throw a lineup as well. So this is pretty simple. A breach throws his thing here, and helps Neon plant the spike, and these guys hold for the potential push. Now at this point, breach has used all his utility. So he needs to value his life less than the other people's life, right? So his job is just to try to keep Neon alive as long as possible, or the Killjoy alive as long as possible. And he wants to be traded by them, or maybe by the Killjoy rather. So for the next step, as you can see, we've planted the spike. The other guys have started running back towards long, and kind of gotten into positions where they can play lineups. The breach has kind of fallen back into this corner or cubby on B Link here, just to help the Killjoy if they are potentially pushing him. So this breach's job would be to just keep Killjoy alive. And Neon is like, at this point, Neon has done his job. He entered, he planted the spike. If he doesn't get a kill, that's fine. He did his job. If he should just try to get a kill or try to stay alive as long as possible, or deal as much damage as possible, and the Neon would have done his job. Yeah, that's it. So for the next step, we would assume that the Neon dies. And at this point, the Killjoy needs to have his Smolly ready to be thrown. Either he throws it even before the Neon dies so that he can just pop it whenever he's ready. And Breach, like I said, helps Killjoy stay alive. The other guys are just chilling long, and if there's anyone activating the turret, they need to just be ready for that. That's why you have two guys long here, so that they don't get pushed for free while they're flanking. So yeah, the Killjoy is the first one to throw his lineup so that he can... And it's mostly done because he's in a more scary spot than the other guys. These guys will have an easier time surviving on B long than the Killjoy on B Link. So it's more important that he throws his molly first. And like I said, Breach just throws his life away, or to make sure that Killjoy stays alive. Now, we're gonna assume that both Killjoy and Breach dies while trying to make this happen. So After the Killjoy threw his lineup and the Breach kind of helped him and tried to stall and did whatever damage they could, it's time for the Kayo to throw his lineup. And the reason Kayo throws his lineup is because he's in the position where, like, you could probably switch which one of these people are playing where here, but you put one in the other and the other in the other spot, pretty much. But whoever's playing here throws the lineup first so that he can hold the flank for the guy who's playing lineup in this corner. Now, the only issue with this is that they could realize that you're playing lineups and just like run down long and peek the Brimstone like this. But if they do, hopefully the KO still has one flash, so he can kind of stall that and make sure that the Brimstone doesn't die. Now, this being said, the Brimstone, like I said, will throw his lineup after, and it's gonna land on the spike again and stall it for like 8 seconds. So if you do this correctly, you're gonna be able to stall the plant, or the fuse, I mean, for up to like 20, 23 seconds, or like 18, 23 seconds, depending on how many mollies the Killjoy can use. Because you have about 5 seconds on the KO molly, you have about 8 seconds on the Brimstone molly, and you have like 5 plus 5 on the Killjoy molly. So that's 5, 5, and 5 plus 8. So that's 23 or 18, depending on if the Killjoy only uses one. So essentially, you do this, you throw the two mollies, these two playing long. They try to play time and just like peek after the mollies in specific timing to make sure that you win the spike or win the round. And like you can see, I've tried to show that here that it's the KO's job to kind of hold the flank for Brimstone while the Brimstone does the lineup. So this is the last sequence, and you essentially just like play the KO flash and peek and play timing until the spike explodes. And one hot tip that I can just add here is that when playing post plant, you should not be peeking too fast on the taps, because if they tap it and you just peek, you could essentially be playing into their cards, because they could be tapping the spike and you're just essentially throwing your life away if you're peeking. Something you can do is jump spot, or you wait like a certain amount of seconds and then you peek. And it's very common for people in a relatively high rank to like wait 3 seconds maybe and then peek, or wait like 5-6 seconds and then peek. And the reason they do this is because the fuse timer is like split into 2 halves, right? So it's 3.5 seconds on every half, and that means that it's a full 7 seconds to defuse the full spike, which means that when you're playing time and like forcing them to kind of stick it, or if they're not sticking it, they have to tap it again. It essentially means that if you're comfortable with your aim and you're peaking at like 5 to 6 seconds and they didn't stick it, then it means that you've forced them to waste 5 seconds. And if they were sticking it, then you hopefully get a free kill on them. You can peek and shoot them in the head. And if they have a teammate left, then that guy has to tap the spike or something like that. And then essentially you will know if it's halved or not. And if the spike is halved, then you just need to make sure that you peek at like 2 or 3 seconds after their tap. That's the best way to kind of waste their time and make sure that you get make sure that the spike explodes, right? So this is the B split strategy with post plant lineup that I created with these 5 characters. It's a very unconventional or not really popular team comp, I would say, but I've always been a big fan of these like weird team comps, and I like playing weird strategies with like lineups and stuns and stuff. I really like Breach and KO. So that being said, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm going to try to make this into a type of video series where I introduce new strategies for you guys and show you lineups for everything that you do. So until next time, have a good one, guys. Here are all the necessary Killjoy lineups for this strategy. You get into this corner at the start if you want to make this lineup happen, to kind of make the B push easier. You stand in this corner, you line up your HUD line with this corner of this house, or like the roof, as you can see, like that. And if you just aim and shoot, it's going to be pretty much a perfect timing to get to the double door here, to wait for the breach flash and to activate the swarm grenade. As you can see, it's activated right here, so we can just keep clearing while it's being used right there. After that, we can get into this corner or like place the longbow here, like I explained, and hold this or get ready to shoot another lineup here to make it land at default. Now, I will teach you two lineups from here because there's two different ones that kind of have two different purposes, even though they are post-plant lineups. The first one is going to land right on the default spot, so there's no like there's no room for error. And the second one is going to land right behind this box right there. And the reason you do the second one is because it's in a spot where the enemies don't usually expect there to be a molly, right? Because if people start realizing that you have a lineup, they might like try to find it and aim or shoot at the spike. But if it's behind the box right here, they're not gonna be able to shoot it unless they know know specifically that it's landed there. So the first one, we're gonna line up for both of these ones. You're gonna line up with this bottom area of this like small thing that's going out here. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but this small thing edge thing here that's going out, you're gonna line up your middle line again there, middle HUD line right there, and that's the one that's gonna land behind the box like so. I will show you. Lands like that, and it covers the default plant as well, so they can't defuse if they're sitting here trying to defuse. And like I said, extremely hard to shoot because it's right there. Because if they're clearing sight from here, it's gonna be really hard. So that's that one, and then we have the second one. You line up the exact same thing, same corner, but instead of using the middle area here, you instead line up the edge of your turret, like so, and just left click. And it's gonna land, like I said, exactly on the default plant. There's no room for error really, and it looks like this. Second one looks like that. As for the Kayo lineups, I'm going to show you two lineups as well. One from here and one from that corner. The one from here is you just like walk up to this wall pretty much, hug the wall. You can aim in between the pillar and the house. You're going to aim right about here at the height of this pillar. So the pillar height and kind of around this building over here, like so. And then you're going to do a running throw like this. And it's important that you do the running throw, or like you press left click before you go on top of this ramp. It's gonna look like this. If you do it too far, you get up on top of the ramp, it's gonna bounce off the wall instead and land incorrectly. You're gonna do a running throw like so. I kind of did it incorrectly, but it still worked out. Like that. Now the second one is from this corner, like I said. If you want to switch it up, play here instead of the Brimstone. You can aim with your Q flash marker, I guess you could call it, like in the HUD line. You can aim at this small scratch below this dolphin, or is it a dolphin? I think it's a dolphin. Below the dolphin, there's a small scratch in the wall. You can line up the flash marker with that and just do a jump throw. And it's gonna land after a few seconds on the default spot. Like so. Starting off in your spawn, you're gonna get into this small tunnel thing here. You can stand right here, look into this wall. And you're gonna aim towards this window right here. You want to line up the edge of this window right here with this line on your HUD line. Showing it again. This corner lined up with this line in your HUD line. And you're throwing your knife, and it's gonna take you like 7 or 8 seconds for this knife to land. And it's gonna land on top here. And the reason this knife is so good is because it lands on top here, and it's pretty impossible for the enemies to shoot it. The only way they can shoot it is if they're playing in heaven here, and they're gonna shoot it from here. But no one really plays in heaven, so it's gonna pretty much guarantee that you scan this both on top here and behind here, as well as if they're potentially playing back there. What I forgot to mention was that you have to tell the breach to use the stun at the exact same time as the knife lands, because you want to get this whole B long control at the exact same time, right? So you stun it, and you also let the knife land at the same time. I'm going to show you two lineups with Brimstone as well. So one is from here, and one is also from this corner. Let's start with this corner. You tug the corner, and you can line up your Molotov HUD line marker thingy with the first edge here that sticks out on the wall. And the way I remember it is it's the first edge close to the greenery here on the wall. So you line up the Molotov with that. You can either line it up like that, or you can even line up the queue like so. And it's gonna bounce slightly differently. This one is gonna land right on it, and if you line up the queue, it's gonna bounce before it. So the first one, like you can see, is landing like right on the spot, and the second one is bouncing first and then landing at the right spot. So the issue with the first one is that it could bounce off a player that's defusing it, so the second one might be better. You'll have to try it out yourself. I'm gonna show the lineup here for this spot. The way you do this is you just simply aim between the pillar and the building, right about this height, about the height of where this ceiling is, kind of, and just left click, and it's gonna land in the corner for the default plant.